Hey there, welcome into the show. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Hope everybody out there is having a great Thursday, January 9th, and the weekend is almost here. So I hope everybody also is getting set to have a fantastic weekend. A lot that I want to talk about on the show here today. Obviously, we know this is a huge offseason coming up for San Francisco, and John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan held an end-of-the-season press conference, and they had a lot of interesting things to say, which point to a lot of the big decisions that this football team is going to have to make over the next several weeks and months. So it really sets the stage for what could transpire the rest of the offseason. I've been sick over the last couple of days, so I haven't been able to do as much content as I want, but we're still hitting you with videos every single day. Couple of things that I want to accomplish before we do all of that. First off, can we get to 155,000 subs by the end of the weekend? We're 526 people away from that number. If you want daily and year-round Niners coverage, updates, news, rumors, analysis, reports, content creator collaborations, that and a whole lot more, lock us in and hit that subscribe button. Our show today also made possible thanks to our friends at Game Time. And this isn't just an app to go to sporting events. You can also go to concerts, comedy shows, theater events, and a whole lot more. This is the best app in the ticketing marketplace, and they specialize in last-minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. Game Time also has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events a lot easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so that you don't have to waste any time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. What's also cool is how prices drop as the event gets closer. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Curated deals make it easier to find the best price on great seats. The super deal is the best value for that event. I love how you can see the vantage point and the price point before you arrive at the venue, arena, stadium, on-time ticket delivery, lowest price guaranteed. There's even event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and a whole lot more. Be sure to toggle the all-in pricing tool. Therefore, you're able to not have any surprise fees at checkout hit you, which increases the price like other ticketing apps do. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So a lot of takeaways from that Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch end-of-the-season press conference. They held it on Wednesday, and all of that news is not stale. These are all big storylines that we're going to continue to monitor all throughout the offseason. And, of course, let's begin with the biggest one, the future of Brock Purdy, the contract for Brock Purdy. I thought Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch gave a strong endorsement of the Niners starting quarterback. Shanahan specifically saying that Purdy's been a stud since the Niners took him with the Mr. Relevant pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. And Shanahan said, I want to spend the rest of my career in San Francisco with number 13. John Lynch also said definitively, he is our guy. Now, on one note, what else are the Niners going to say? Of course they're going to back up their quarterback and give him a vote of confidence, give him some support. And they know that the lack of instability and all of the injuries and all of the extracurricular things caused chaos and led to him struggling at moments this year. They also know that Purdy's done a really nice job. And statistically, he's been one of the top quarterbacks in the game since he took over as the team starter back in 2022. I also have said this so many times. If you're a person out there who is not confident in Brock Purdy, you don't want San Francisco to pay him, and you don't think that he's a franchise quarterback, let me hit you with this. What is the alternative? There aren't many alternative options out there. This is a weak quarterback class. You're not going to find a quarterback in free agency who's better or has been more productive than Purdy. I know a lot of people are going to say, bring back Sam Darnold. Look at what he did for the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, Minnesota won 14 games. Did you see him against Detroit? He reverted back to the Sam Darnold that we have seen with the New York Jets, with Carolina. And what happens if Minnesota gets bounced in the first round of the playoffs and Darnold struggles? Then his value starts to tank. I will say this too. How the Niners really feel about Brock Purdy will be indicated by how much they pay him. Both sides want to get a deal done early. I think that's very important. But the Niners' offer to Brock Purdy is going to speak volumes about how they really feel about him. They could say right now, he's our guy. He's going to be our franchise quarterback. Kyle Shanahan could say, I want him to be alongside me the rest of the time that I'm with the Niners. But if they offer him $30 to $40 million per year, that goes to show you what they actually think about him. If they pay him 50 to 60, they truly believe that they can win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, that he's elite, and they were a few plays away from winning the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs back in February in Las Vegas. I thought this was also pretty interesting too. And by the way, the 49ers have officially completed interviews virtually, I should say, with two candidates for their defensive coordinator job to take over for Nick Sorensen. Robert Saleh, former Niners defensive coordinator, former Jets head coach. He has interviews set up with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Las Vegas Raiders, but also Deshae Townsend, who is the Lions DB's coach and defensive pass game coordinator. After the Niners had lost to Detroit, Kyle Shanahan had said, look, I know this Lions defense has suffered a bunch of injuries, but their secondary is as good as it gets. Aaron Glenn used to play in the secondary as a DB in his career. He's now the defensive coordinator for Detroit. He's going to get a head coaching job, I believe, this cycle, but it's Deshae Townsend who's done a lot of work, pass game coordinator, defensive backs coach, in that Lions secondary to make them the unit that they are. So two interesting developments on the defensive coordinator search for San Francisco. There's also this, which I found to be interesting. Kyle Shanahan's open to changing defensive schemes. And if the Niners do keep the same scheme, he acknowledges they have to adapt a little bit. I think this is a positive here. Shanahan hasn't always been willing to adapt the scheme. He hasn't always been willing to make changes. Hopefully, and he needs this, it's a moment of self-reflection. It's a moment where he looks in the mirror. It's that realization that the Niners as an organization do need to make some adjustments. Time will tell, and we'll see if that actually happens. Shanahan said this, I love the scheme that we've had here. I think it's one of the hardest things to do or to go to when you've got the right guys in the right spots, but I do think people adjust to schemes, and I think you have to adjust too, depending on your personnel. And I think that was a tougher thing for us this year. Just going into the season, it was a little bit harder than past years, and some of the injuries that we've had, it made it really hard for Nick Sorensen. And I thought he got better trying to adjust and do different things, but I do think that's something that definitely, I'm not saying you've got to change schemes, but you have to have the ability, the history, and the knowledge of how to change some stuff up when you're in some certain situations, and I think that's what we need to do more of going forward. And this year, the Niners defense became way too predictable, way too vanilla. Nick Sorensen did nothing exotic, nothing creative. They had injuries, bad tackling unit, poorly coached unit, and Nick Sorensen was in over his skis. That's why Nick Sorensen is no longer the defensive coordinator for this team. How about this, too? Kyle Shanahan saying that Brandon Staley has a chance to get the job. Quote, I'll give Staley a shot. I just talked to him. He's been here. Now, Staley is known to be adaptable and aggressive, especially on third downs. Shanahan faced Staley with Jimmy Garoppolo and Christian McCaffrey in the backfield, and Staley 6-1 front, covered the A and C gaps and dared the Niners to run in between the guards. McCaffrey finished the game with 38 yards on 14 carries. Also, Staley is a disciple of Vic Fangio. This year, the Philadelphia Eagles had the #1 overall defense in the NFL. And they disguised their middle-of-the-field coverages 39% of the time, second highest rate in the NFL. The Niners, 21.7%, that was 27th. Based upon what Fangio has done historically, maybe that's what Staley would bring to the table, but I'm just not going that route. I'm going Saleh, I'm going somebody else, because Staley was here, and this defense still stunk. As for Deebo Samuel here, so much chatter this past offseason about the Niners trading Deebo. Deebo even said, those trade conversations happened. The Niners approached my agent about it. They told me about it. Didn't end up getting dealt. Next year in 2025, Deebo will be entering the final year of his contract. And it looks like he's going to be back. Lynch and Shanahan saying, we're not in the business of letting good football players go. It's a pretty strong, direct quote from the two front office members in Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch about Deebo. Here's my question, though, that I'd like to counter to that. Is Deebo still a good football player? Because you look at his numbers this year. Take out 2020 when he only played in 7 games that year. That was year 2 for him. All right? He had 51 catches this year. And again, outside of 2020, that's a career low. 670 yards, second lowest. 3 touchdowns, lowest since 2022. Second lowest outside of that. He had a 40.7% success percentage, lowest in his career. He had, 8.3 yards per target, second lowest in his career. He had 3 total touchdowns, second lowest of his career. 1 rushing touchdown, lowest of his career outside of 2020. 3.2 yards per carry, lowest of his career. The tackle breaking numbers were not there. The separation numbers were not there. Deebo wasn't running through cats like he's done in the past, and this was coming after he had a good offseason. And he was hit 23 miles per hour on the treadmill. And he starred during minicamp, OTAs, and in training camp. Now, he had some injuries. He had the pneumonia. Was the pneumonia the reason why he wasn't the same guy? Maybe. But I'm not sure if Deebo Samuel is still a good football player, according to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. As for Javon Hargrave, the Niners plan to release him with a post-June 1 designation. I had talked about this once they restructured his contract, that this was probably going to be the end result. And look, this signing was a failure. And the Niners' failure to address defensive tackle the last several years has been a failure. They traded DeForest Buckner after 2019 when they made it to the Super Bowl. Position has not been right since. And so Eric Armstead was a good but not great player. Solomon Thomas never panned out. Javon Kinlaw was a bust. And Javon Hargrave got a 4-year, $84 million contract. It's been a disappointment. Played 1 year last year. This year cut short due to injury. He was bad against the run, and the Niners' defensive tackle play against the run is a big reason why this Niners defense has struggled. The move to release Hargrave with that post-June 1 designation does save the Niners $7.37 million over each of the following 3 years. In 2026, due to the extra ghost years on Hargrave's contract, the Niners will end up eating just under $3 million in dead cap. But they'll save about $4.5 million in 2025 and the entire $7.3 in 2027. Another interesting storyline here is that Klay Kubiak is being elevated to offensive coordinator from pass game coordinator. He called plays in Week 18 against Arizona, and the Niners put up nearly 400 yards of offense. He called plays in the preseason. Hard to gauge how the offense did because backups were playing for a majority of it. But that was the first time in Week 18 that Kyle Shanahan hadn't called plays in several years. One thing I wanted to see the Niners and Shanahan do, bring in a fresh set of eyes at OC to take a look at this offense. This isn't really that, but it's another voice. It's another influence. Of course, Kubiak is the son of Gary Kubiak, who used to work under Mike Shanahan with the Denver Broncos. And so it's still the same tree of coaches, but hopefully Kyle Shanahan changes things up a little bit because I thought the offense got stale. It got predictable. They struggled in the second half of games. That needs to change. And then I've talked about this a lot here on the show. We'll round out with this, how the Niners don't really value special teams enough, how Kyle Shanahan doesn't put enough of an emphasis on it. They've been bad the last couple of years. And in 2024, they were dead last in EPA. Coverage breakdowns, muffed returns, muffed coverages, penalties, fake punts. It's just bad all around. A lot of costly dumb penalties. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan barked back at the narrative that they don't care about special teams, that Kyle Shanahan doesn't emphasize it enough. And John Lynch even said, I know Kyle Shanahan's process. He puts an emphasis on special teams. Well, show us, because the special teams unit has been bad for years running. Another reminder before we dip on out of here, be sure to hit that subscribe button right here on the Niners Report. Let's get to 155,000 subscribers. I hope today that you are informed and you got some great news and takeaways, me sharing my analysis, my opinions. As always, thank you so much for watching the show. Continue to rock with us because I have you covered every step of the way this offseason.